Serving as panelists on the second panel session, theme, putting the customer at the heart of innovation. We have our previous speakers, Meital Raviv, Meaghan Johnson, and Iniabasi Akpan, as they step onto the stage as panelists. To moderate this panel session is Ngozi Chidozie, a partner in the management consulting practice of KPMG in Nigeria. She has in-depth strategy and business transformation experience, working with various market players, specifically within the financial services industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our panelists and moderator.
Panel discussion for today would be on putting the customer in the heart of innovation. Would adopt the same approach that we adopted the last time, which is trying to get the audience involved. So please start now to type your questions. We'll run the polls. And before I comment, I want to make a quick comment. I think this is a more representative, more diverse team than the panel we had earlier. So we have three women and one able gentleman to represent the men folk. I want to start with a quick question on sustaining innovation. It would appear to be a straightforward question, but I think it's a bit tricky. I'll start my question by, I think Meital, you'll go first. So the first question really is that organizations are under significant pressure to continuously innovate. It seems like customers want the next thing to be the next big thing. So customers are used to innovation. The question I have for you, and then for everybody else, would be, how do you keep ahead of this curve? How do you continually innovate? How do you continue to be fresh?
I can think of some answers to these questions, and I will start by saying that I think that organizations now, and I think I mentioned it in my presentation, need to think forward, let's say, on 3 or 5 years top, and not 10 or 20 years like it was before, because everything is changing in a very fast pace, and the way to do it is actually, first, you can look at the startup ecosystems. You can see the ideas that are around us in our industry. It can be the financial industry, it can be other industries, because there are startups everywhere and in every industry. And people are staying at home and thinking, what can I do in order to change the industry? And me, as a CEO of a bank or insurance company, or any other, let's say, e-commerce or something, sits in my home, and I'm not sure that I have the same ideas as the ones at the age of 20 or 18 or 16 even, that thinks of how can I do it better. So the first answer would be look around. Just be connected with your environment. See how things are changing. See who takes the lead in the industry, what happens in other countries. So don't stay just in your comfortable zone. I think it's the main issue here.
Thank you. And Inia, I gotta say, I really enjoyed your presentation. For someone that says he's very shy, you actually anchored the presentation, and it was very enjoyable. What are your thoughts regarding how to stay ahead of the curve?
Thank you very much. I think it's a great question. I try to be, I mean, for me, the secret is not losing touch. And and not disconnecting yourself from the people you provide services to. The agents we provide services to, for instance, have my direct number. They can call me. I mean, so I don't lose touch on what's going on. I mean, customers engage me, they get my number, they call me. So the thing is just staying in touch with the people every day, not just disconnecting yourself, because we have these tendencies as executives sometimes to want to shield people out because we're so busy, we don't have time for anything else. We just want to work. But it's not all about work. You have to keep in touch with the customer. You need to know what the heartbeat of the customer is, what pains they're going through, how to respond to those needs. And we've done that effectively. So for instance, when we started the agent business, there were huge gaps. I mean, even in the solutions that were available in the market. And customers or the agents wanted something unique, something simple, something smart. And we responded to that, and they latched onto it. So it's just staying in touch. If there are events and I'm in town, I attend those events. I don't stay away from the events, or I'm so busy in the office. You have to be out in the field every day, engaging the people, and then use tools and platforms that also give you feedback directly. You are part of the thing. So that's how to evolve and make sure that the customer is at the heart of everything.
Thank you very much. Meaghan?
Thank you for the question. I think from my perspective, it's testing and being afraid or not being afraid to fail in a sense. So if you have an idea that you think can resonate with a customer, test it with customers. Go through kind of a 6-week discovery phase. Do some lean research with the customers and see if you're onto something. And if it doesn't resonate with the customers, then it's not the end of the world. It's okay. And I think really taking the time to understand the day-to-day life of your customers is so important. There's a bank in Georgia called TBC Bank, and they relaunched their kind of SME banking proposition that focused on the 9 to 9 of the SME's life. So went above and beyond core banking, and it was, what else are you doing in your day-to-day life as an SME that we as a bank can support you with, and they ran quite a lot of customer testing. And I think, with banks in particular, there's so many potential companies and FinTechs out there to partner with, to integrate with, and it can be overwhelming, and everyone can get quite excited. But again, I think it's testing with customers and making sure that you have the basics of your proposition right before you it's walking before you can run.
All right. So that's a good answer. And it segues into my next question on agility. And unfortunately, I'll have to ask you the question. We listened to Roland earlier talk about being agile and adopting the agile approach. And you've actually made some points related to that. So the progressive businesses that we have around try to build in the customer insight as they make decisions, as they produce and they go into production. What advice would you give businesses that perhaps haven't adopted that approach, but are looking to maintain their competitive edge and make a difference in the market?
Thank you for the question. I think, when you hear agile, specifically in banking, everyone looks towards the case study of ING, and they're kind of they are the epitome of this holistic agile transformation. It took them, I think, about 9 months, and they did so many different tactics, but a few things that really kind of stood out to me was that they had all the executives on board, and there was the mandate that the executives had to act as the role models for, buying into this agile approach and acting in an agile way. But not every organization can or has the appetite to go through the same transformation as ING. And there's lots of different things you can do. For example, with ING, not every department went through this agile transformation. So for example, the sales team didn't go through the agile transformation, but they implemented daily stand-ups. It's a tactic and kind of initiative used among startups. It goes hand in hand with agile working. And for those of you who aren't familiar with daily stand-ups, it's every day at the same time the team has a call, sits in a room, 15 minutes, and says what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and any challenges. So again, it doesn't have to be this kind of grand transformation. And a bank I'm working with at the moment in Scandinavia, we had, one of the data scientists came to the head of data commercialization with an idea, and we kind of just ran with it like how a startup would run with it. So, we took 20 minutes, created a lean canvas model. We did some lean testing with some potential customers, and then, we were able to analyze and find that the idea actually didn't work. So then we were happy that we went through this process, because it's implementing these kind of, thinking differently amongst the different teams. The little things I think will add up.
Thank you very much. I see the questions pouring in. I'll ask one question of Meital, and then I'll take a couple questions from the audience. Meital, the question I have for you is really around the challenge of using customer insights, right? So customer insights are critical to innovation. But we found that the majority of spend on insights is wasted, largely because people make decisions on account of intuition. Perhaps sometimes they also allow the most senior members of staff to decide what happens. And you never really use or get value from the spend on insight. What would you propose as a way to counter this, such that you're able to use the insights from the customers to actually make decisions?
So it's a very interesting question, actually. First of all, because Meaghan talked about it on the personalization and predictive areas in the digital channels. And I think that the digital era allows us to know our customer better and to use the data in order to give the right insights at the right time. And I can tell how we did it in the bank. We had like personal assistant in the bank, and we wanted to know what will be the next step for the customer inside the app. And actually, it was very hard to achieve, even though we had all the data around, under our hands. But we need to analyze the data. We needed to understand if a customer enters the app, what is his goal? Why is there? What is my job to be done? Okay, I want to open an account. I want to take a loan. I just want to watch my balance. So we needed to know the customer in a way that if we give him some kind of insights, it would be something effective that will make him click the button, that will make him do the action. So I think that data is the key. The way to use the data, the way to understand the steps and to finalize what will be the next step, or how can I make my customer act, this is the answer to good insights. And actually, one of the keys for, especially in banks, to be more proactive is to understand the customer, even if he is not on the app. Even if I know that my salary goes into my account in the first of the month, so maybe I can create something like a previous notification that said, we know that you have 1 day to your salary. Do you want to do anything with it? Maybe we know that you are using only 80% of your money. Do you want to use the 20% in deposit or something? So just to be more proactive, just to make the customer feels that you know him, this is the way to create more activity on the channels, on our business.
Thank you very much. Ini, there are actually quite a number of questions here for you. I'll take the first one that occurs to me. So it says, Ini, I would like to know the insurance Opay has in place for accident victims inclusive of their riders and clients using O-Ride?
That's an interesting question. Well, we make provision for the rider and the passenger in taking a ride. I mean, so they're covered for accidents, for death, up to a particular limit. Obviously, we can't make it limitless because there are quite a lot of customers that we have. Otherwise, we'll be out of business. So the thing is that we in building the solution, we actually integrated that as part of the overall solution. So you wouldn't take a ride, obviously, without being covered. Accidents happen. You can't avoid accidents. Even if you fly in the air, accidents will happen. So we did factor that into the overall solution from the very beginning. And that's part of responding to the customer needs in advance, knowing what the challenges would be and all that. So,
all right, so just hold on to the mic a bit longer. As you made your presentation, it was clear you had different business models for the different businesses that you had launched. And just in terms of the numbers, they do appear to be very successful. So you are involved in both financial service solutions as well as non-financial service solutions. So what's driving the shape of your business model? And what's the role of the customer? I mean, the insights that you're able to get from the customer in designing your business models.
Well, that's an interesting question. Thanks for that. So for us, the key is to, we get this information mainly from the market opportunities. Just looking at the opportunities, I mean, if you look at the numbers of people, look at the challenges we face in the market and what the customer needs are, you can actually identify this. But it's important that we had a roadmap to that. So the business model, we are very, very flexible. We have no rigid business model. Where we see an opportunity in a vertical that is high velocity, where you have high velocity transactions, and it's a captive market, we are willing to launch into that market and actually offer a unique solution that will transform that. And that's why payment is at the core of everything. But if we don't also break into those verticals and give them and digitize them, what would happen is that you wouldn't be able to, enable payments in those particular segments. And that's been the challenge in transportation industry for some time. I mean, even though you take a ride, the fact is that you find it difficult to pay. The payment channels are not convenient. And that's how we've evolved. Same thing with food, same thing with other channels. So where there is an opportunity, the market opportunities are there, and it's high velocity and it's a captive market, we will engage it.
Thank you. Meaghan, this question is for you. It's on culture. With the clients that you've worked with and they are currently working with, how have you seen them build the discipline of experience design as a means of orchestrating customer-centric?
I think there's two approaches that I've seen banks take. So two kind of examples. So it's either building or buying, I think. And there's kind of two components to building, but some of the large banks we're seeing are actually kind of acquiring customer and research-centric organizations. So, way back in 2014, Capital One actually purchased a San Francisco-based design and UX agency called Adaptive Path. Goldman Sachs, so they have a retail proposition called Marcus, and they acquired a company called Final, which offered a card solution. And part of the acquisition of Final saw, all the people at Final, which is essentially a startup, absorbed into Goldman Sachs, but they allowed them to kind of, operate. They didn't kind of absorb them into the more bureaucratic way of thinking. It was more, let's open this up and get people collaborating. I think with the build perspective, I'm seeing a lot of my clients and also working kind of on the the design side of things, running a lot more of what we call discovery phases. So 6 to 12 week initiatives in which kind of the business has an idea and they want to validate this idea with customers. So they kind of commission a cool young hip design agency, good ones. And the first step is what Meital said, is understanding what others are doing, understand where the trends are. Is this product or service that you're looking to launch already there? If yes, okay, what can we steal? Steal with pride. And if not, okay, why isn't it there? What can the particular cultural nuances dictate with this product or service? The second step is then kind of, in some instances, running internal stakeholder interviews. So, what's the pushback internally from product, innovation, governance, and actually creating a particular product or service? And then the final step is customer testing. So actually going out to the customers and understanding, taking a jobs to be done approach and understanding where the challenges are and how the product or service that you have in mind can actually tackle these challenges. And then, it's creating a working prototype, rapid prototyping, testing that again with customers. So I think it's the shift of, having more flexibility, again, doing things more agile, but always putting the customer at the focus because, at the end of the day, if you can match that product or service with the customer, that's where you'll have a successful product that you can scale.
Thank you very much. Meital, this question is for you, and it's on the ecosystem of fintechs and innovators. You head up innovation and fintech in KPMG Israel, so we all assume that you're very comfortable in that ecosystem. Now, the majority of bank CEOs and enterprise CEOs in Nigeria feel that there is an advantage with working with this ecosystem. So there are two ways to look at it. Do you collaborate with them or do you consider them as competition? And many businesses don't actually know how to respond. What would be your advice to businesses that are looking to take advantage of the ecosystem on how to do that and do that profitably?
So I think it's a question that all over the world I hear it. Because the partnership model, the way I see it, is the most, it concerns the management of, I see the financial institutions, but I believe it can be in all industries. So, and the fintechs are rising. Just in Israel, we have like 550 companies in fintech. There are a lot of questions on what is the right partnership model and how can I, as a bank with this large ship and so many systems in my infrastructure and legacy systems, how can I integrate with a small company, maybe 3 or 4 guys or girls, that comes with a new idea and they have like this cool technology, and how can I make it, how can I take it inside my systems, my legacy systems, without first hurt my stability, second create the best customer experience I can, and third, not to invest too many resources in order to integrate, because most of the times the integration is the most painful issues when we think of collaborating with someone. So, and the last one, but not the least, is how I don't kill the startup, because from my experience, there are a lot of times that, okay, a bank is coming and he says, let's collaborate, let's do something together, but then it takes like 1 year, 2 years to integrate, and the startup is dead. They're not there yet. It's not there. They cannot hold it for this long. So I think that there are a few partnership models that a bank or a financial institutions should consider when they are looking on startups. It can be either some partnership model, let's say engagement with, I don't want to say buy the technology, but it's like, it's partnership, but we need to change the process within the bank. the purchase process, how do you say, how much money do I pay for running the system? So the inner processes within the organization needs to be changed in order to embrace the new technology. And the second one is, of course, to buy the company. If we think it's a good company, banks are now looking for more stable companies that already gain some customers, that already do things, and if they want to invest in buying this technology, it should be a very stable company. It's not because they are buying the technology. They want the support team to be there. They want to, and maybe it's a white labeling, so they want someone to be on the back end and not invest in more resources from the bank. So it's very complicated, actually, and the open innovation, as we call it, it's a concern in the industry. But I believe that organizations that looks at the startups as something that will change their culture are wrong, because the new guys, the new technologies that comes in to my organization won't change it. We need to do much more deeper investigations and much more deeper activities to be able to embrace new technologies. So this is what I think.
Thank you very much. We've almost run out of time, but I have one really good question from the audience that, this question is for you, Ini. It's a really good question. It says, how can businesses balance the need for efficiency and stability in delivering shareholder value with the drive for innovation, which may not give immediate value?
That's a tough question. I'm not the expert. You know, the thing is, in the kind of business that you're in, I mean, the kind of business you're in determines a lot. I mean, people need to understand the KPIs for a particular type of business. Because if you understand the KPIs, then you know how to balance those things. In the business we're in, a couple of things are important. And that's, you know, the scale at which you're growing, which is very, very important. Because what you're doing is there's a point at which you attain optimal utility. And that's when the returns come in. And so in the business we're in, it's not a short-term, it's a long-term thing. But you build short-term plans and then ultimately reap the rewards down the line if you can sustain the business. And that's so you need to understand the dynamics of the business to be able to determine that. So that's my response to that. So
all right, so unfortunately we've run out of time. I just want to spend a few minutes to thank my panel, starting from Meaghan. Thank you very much. Ini, I loved your presentation for someone so shy. And Meital, thank you as well.